Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our Divine Self Embodiment podcast. And I'm here with Kasha. And I'm Jelelle. And we're going to have sort of an interview session. Kasha's going to ask me some questions, things you already know, mostly. But for the sake of whoever's watching this, you'll get more sense of me, and also woven in with that, the work itself.
Because Jelelle very much is the work itself. As basically the mother of it in a lot of ways, alongside Divine Mother. And I think that's where I want to start with you, actually, the inception of what we know as Divine Self Embodiment. Where did that begin for you? What is that rooted in for you?
Whoa. It's quite the question. You just mentioned it. I think Divine Mother is a piece of it, and my soul's connection with her that really didn't awaken for me until maybe 20 years ago now. And also what comes to me is parts work, or connecting to parts of the self. It's interesting because when I first was introduced to that kind of work, and even Divine Mother over 20 plus years ago, it was not that well known. So it was kind of felt like entering into something that was maverick or fringe, which is definitely a place where my soul feels comfortable. Now, of course, it's so common to hear people refer to parts of themselves, to have the offering of IFS, voice dialogue. It's just really expanded, as has the awareness of Divine Feminine. So that's been really interesting to watch and feel as, I guess, what you could call a forerunner, or whatever the right word is there, pioneer of something.
Your Divine Mother awakening is very much at the heart and soul of this work. So can you share a little bit about what that meant to you at that time to awaken to Divine Mother? What precipitated that, and where did you take that?
I was awakening to, as I mentioned, parts of myself, to my soul, through a group that I was part of. And I left that group in kind of a rupture sort of experience, dark night of the soul. And it landed me in this place of really wanting God, to feel a personal God, but not resonating with so much the religious God. So then that kind of naturally left this void, and that I feel that Divine Mother was then able to reach me in that void, because I let go of a significant amount of false gods. So then, in that place of kind of being broken, I could see her, let her in, and particularly when I was Reiki attuned, for some reason, I had been doing energy work for a few years before that, but something about that timing opened up. I saw 4 faces of Mother at that time, had a very, very profound awakening around that, and was like, wow, this is where I am home. So that led to so much of what evolved after that. And that was in 2012, which was a year that many people, many souls were brought across a threshold of something.
Many dark nights were had around that
and
time.
Awakenings,
yeah. And it was also your experience of sacred union that opened out a lot of this work and even deepened your connection with the divine. And this is a tender place at the moment with what you've been letting go of, but your relationship was one of the reasons why I came into this room in the first place. So it's a tender thing for me too, to feel it. But what was it about being in sacred union that you were able to be in it, first of all, as an awakening soul, because so many souls struggle with that?
And from the time I'm speaking of, before that time even, until just this year, me and my previous partner, that some of you may know, Raphael, were together through all of that. And we met in the group I just mentioned. So we were clearly meant to go through all of that we did afterwards. And so Sacred Union became a real ground of growth. So there was the expansion into Divine Mother. There was the awakening with all of these parts of myself, also soul aspects from other lifetimes. And then there was the connection in this relationship that had both its, as we say, trailing edges, difficulties, as all relationships have their challenges and growth grounds, and leading edge. So this deep, there's, such a deep claiming of each other, a deep commitment and devotion to each other and the bond. And that took us through many, many phases of a lot of, as you know, a lot of transition, 7 different countries or something like that, giving up careers, giving up a lot of identities, a lot of the individuation that souls go through. We went through that together. And then the other thing, which I imagine you were going to mention, is that expanding out to not just our relationship. It was never just about he and I being in a conventional bond. It was always about this anchoring a divine masculine, divine feminine, being very human in that, and then expanding that field out to invite soul family in particular, who's resonant with that, being in that with us. That's a very specific piece, I think, of what my soul has been wanting to bring through, is the communal field. So it's never just personal for me. It always then extends in, before it was into the relationship, and it would ground in there, and then it would extend out to community, the close, and then proximity, and then I guess collective beyond that.
Yeah. It's, you mentioned the devotion to the Sacred Union bond, and even when I feel you in this, just in anything that has to do with your dharma, like just what you're here to do, which is this work, which is bringing through Divine Mother to transmit and help all of us feel and embody her as well, and Father as well. But that devotional frequency is so signature, devotion to self, other, and the divine. But for you, was that you discovered that you had that, right? That devotional soul energy.
Yeah, I think similar
signature.
to your process too. Because I wasn't raised with religion, I wasn't really raised with anything. So it was just a void, which actually really served my soul. So what I became devoted to at a very young age, honestly, was coping. So I was coping with being a latchkey kid, and my having a birth father that abandoned me very young, and then stepfathers with mixed experiences. And I had all of these hours. I kind of call it my golden hours now. But as a kid, and a teenager even, I would be devoted to coping with all of the pain, I think, that I felt. Also the awakenings that were happening, especially as a teenager. Things I wasn't even conscious of until I really connected with my inner teenager. Things, abduction experiences even that were happening that I wasn't aware of.
Star being abduction.
Star being visits, and I think some abduction experiences. So I created these landscapes. My soul could create is beyond. I've tried to explain this to people, over the years, but they experience it when they're in sessions with me. And that is, it's creating a field of healing. And the first recipient of that were parts of me when I was younger. And in that space of healing, it's an imaginative space, it's a creative space, it's a creative field, and it's deeply emotional, because that was me as well. I was always emotional. And the spiritual elements came later. Then Divine Mother could meet me in that space. But the core of it was emotional. We can say coping. I feel no judgment when I say coping. I don't think I would be here because there was also a lot of depression and even suicidal thoughts and feelings as a teenager. But I could always open out a landscape that way that would then be nourishing, right? So that really what I say is that this work is really just that.
Yeah.
It's that same landscape that then I'm offering, sharing with someone, and then they start being able to open that out as well.
It's like what you do in that case is validate actually, well, it's about validating all parts, strategies, truly, like if it's coping or whatever it is, because we all have
I guess I just did it just now, didn't I? Yeah. I didn't mean coping in a self-judgmental way at all.
No, and
I'm grateful.
And it's like that, what you offer then and transmit is this permission to embrace that inner world, that inner landscape that has helped you get through.
We call it the home field now. Yes. And I think I even have soul aspects who were offering this in other lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And as a priestess, it was something that I feel like it was just a soul gift.
Yeah.
That and in that landscape, I wanted to mention, I could have conversations with other people, parts, eventually guides. It was always conversational. It was always relational space. Even though it was me alone, it was always relational. And so when I'm describing this, I'm not talking about becoming just incredibly self-focused. It's self-focused in order to flow out, to be in a deeper, more intimate, authentic relationality. Yeah. So that was a piece. Even in college, I could create also these rooms. You know, we joke about my carrot lights that I had. You know,
the truth tent.
Yeah, and I created a truth tent that we all tell the truth to each other. You know, so it was something in my soul that was like, didn't want the conventional ways of being in reality where everything is kind of shut down, it's not spoken about, it's strategic, it's performative. My soul wants still to this day realness, and accessing that realness inside, creating a space for it inside, and then the space for it outside. Did I describe that okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always joke like it's just me playing a game in another way.
I know.
And then inviting all of you to play along if you want.
I know. I feel your inner child when you say that, like your little star seed.
Yeah.
And how it's like just the best game ever.
She thinks so.
Because it's like, why don't more people want to play with me in this beautiful place that I've created? And that's
I think
so
we
not
know
egoic.
the answer. I think we know the answer to that one.
Oh yeah.
And it's not because it's not a valid game. It's because it's challenging in its own way.
Well, it also requires
confrontive in its own way.
It requires, doesn't it, that even some semblance of some degree of self-permission already intact within you to imagine, to go to these places inside. And if parts of you have cut you off from that, then that makes it even harder to see that this game is worth playing, that it's worth being in this.
It's like a leap, you know, out of the mind,
right,
and away from what's 3D, the five senses. I've written about this, particularly in my book, Free to Be 5D, a lot. I wrote a lot in that book about 3D, 4D, and 5D. Yeah. So those aren't just, to me, trends or something. Those are dimensional consciousnesses. Mm-hmm. So in a 3D consciousness, it's very literal and rational, and just about what you see in the five senses, and that just was never interesting to me. That's what I mean about as a child. And I think almost for all children, it's not actually that interesting. That's why we play pretend.
Right.
You know?
Oh, I had all sorts of imaginary friends and played pretend all the time.
But usually that gets lost, right? Right. And I've seen this in so many sessions. When you access the inner child, then this whole field of magic and play and possibility and joy opens up again. And often the inner child is in a traumatic field. 4D, as I've described it, is more of that churny, burny, trauma place, you know, especially lower 4D, that many souls, I think, are moving. I feel humanity is moving through out of 3D and into 4D.
Where there's always something to fight. There's always something to battle, figuratively
or
literally.
Of sorting.
And a lot of sorting of this and that, and I'm this and I'm not that, and
that's where a lot of what we call reconciliation is going on. So in 3D, there's a lot of individuation, 4D is reconciliation, and then in 5D, you're starting to unify. And not in this like bliss, love, everything is perfect way, but you're really, and we've felt this, right? You're really starting to reconcile from within things that were previously polarized, fears and projections and wounds and traumas, and it's feeling more unified inside and therefore on the outside.
I was realizing as you were talking about the just the whole imagination and play of it, that I think that was one of the main reasons why I was so drawn to you as soon as I met you, was because it's like you, even in just a few words or just energizing from your being, everything you've cultivated and given permission to inside freed something up inside of me immediately, like in the inner child, in the young parts, and they realized they could breathe in this air. It didn't feel constrictive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I think there's something about that I'm just realizing this as you're talking about it, that was actually, I think, one of the bigger parts of the draw. It wasn't just how you talked about parts, which by that point I had heard of the inner child and all of that, but I didn't really, and I acknowledged it as real, but it wasn't really real until you could energize, like, this is how we would work with parts.
And feel your inner child. It's that maybe this is why I've also written so much about freedom. You know, Free to Be She is my latest book for the feminine, and the freedom of, actually the freedom of the field that I'm describing is completely unconditional. So it's total freedom. But then how do you bring that, you know, that place of so much freedom into your body, into daily life, into your relationships, into your spirituality? It's like so much programming and conditioning restricts or limits. Or what word did you use?
Constriction.
That's basically it, right? Either through making something very clinical, or mental,
black and white,
or very punisher-based, you know, punishment-based, or discipline or doctrine, or killing the ego, or, you know, there's always something, it seems, that is trying to move out of a place of compassion or unconditional love that we can have within ourselves, even as in relationships it's healthy to have conditions.
Healthy to have conditions in relationships. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more, actually? How we relate to that, how you relate to that.
I wonder if that's a whole separate...
It might be a whole separate podcast. That I mentioned
we'll come back to that one.
I just feel like that's a whole aspect of each of our growth in this room, is that, you know, and that doesn't just encompass setting boundaries. There's a certain like unconditional love inside, and then, but it also has conditions. Like, we're holding parts of us.
Maybe how I can speak to that is feeling, for me at least, where I'm sitting right now, that my discernment is quite strong. So it's an embodied wisdom. It's even a body, like, yes or no. That's the embodiment. And then it's also more and more I talk about trusting the field. And that's trusting my own field and what is drawn to me or not drawn to me. And it seems to be, and trusting our community field. And at the moment, it seems to be more things that support unification and reconciliation, things that are higher, we could say higher frequency. There's not so much difficulty, trauma, issues, karmic tensions. And I actually don't even judge those phases, because they're very important to our learning. Our soul in particular has been through so much. And it's been through a lot of life and death, very intense situations, often much more than we've even been through this life. So in whatever ways we need to, I call it recapitulate some of those frequencies so that we can be with them, I've really honored that too. But I feel like now I'm at a phase where there's too much cost of that now, to peace, to well-being, to what I'm here to offer to go through that much anymore. So now it's a lot more about, I don't feel I have to set boundaries anymore, is another way. Like the embodiment, the field sorts it for me.
Right.
And I'm now able, parts of me tended to be caretaking, overholding, self-sacrificing. Right. When you have such a big love, heart, care field for people, that's what you're working, right? You know this well. Now I can say no to someone if it's just not feeling right or aligned, and they still feel cared for, usually. They usually agree, and there's a parting, that isn't rupturing anymore. And that's because I'm valuing myself in such a deep, deep way that I don't think my soul has ever done in choosing 3D lifetimes.
Yeah, I resonate with that, of course. And also the journey you've had to even get here can't be understated, because I know for myself too, I still have moments where I'm like, and you're like, okay, Kasha, you just need to feel that though. So it's never just an for the sake of it. It's like there's like sometimes a little 4D something will kind of kick in a little bit. But that's again the undulation of like, we're sometimes in 3D, sometimes in 4D, sometimes in 5D, and sometimes even higher. Yeah. But it's like, that the arc that you've had from, as I know all about your humble beginnings, because I read the book that you had written at that a couple of years ago many times. So for you to become who you are now, it's like I feel in this moment like I'm letting it in on a whole other level. I feel your love for me. That's what I'm taking in right now. I'm almost a little starstruck in this funny way. Because I can feel the parts of me that read that book over and over again, and it's just like, but she's here. Like I get to relate to you every day.
That's just you feeling you, right?
Yeah.
And all your capacity too.
Oh, that's a classic Jelelle line.
And I receive it. Thank you.
But I mean, you really have though. So there's something about.
There's one piece I want to speak to before I forget.
Sure.
Related to that, I've become at ease with people's projections. I think is one way of saying it. And sometimes their projections. One piece I was just saying in a session 2 days ago was, part of what I'm talking about is the progression here that I mentioned, is that projections move from something sort of outward, and then you need everybody to validate you, or there's a lot of externalizing, to an internal sense of centeredness, where people are reflections, not projections anymore. So if I get a reflection, let's just say, what you're doing is not okay, what you're offering is harming people, which is, such a tender thing to receive. I won't immediately just take that in as truth, right? Why is that coming to me? What is that reflecting? What's my relationship with this soul? Like it becomes a whole inquiry and curiosity, and I don't seem to need those anymore. Yeah. So I feel like I'm now at this phase where the reflections I receive are of a leading edge version of me. That doesn't mean there aren't still wounds and things to feel, but I think it's partly because the projections have dropped, and there isn't, people will say, oh, don't worry about what anyone else thinks, and what anyone thinks about you is about them. And it's like, well, that's true to some degree, but it's a reflection. So you're being offered a portal, especially someone you've cared for a lot. It isn't just whatever they feel is theirs. To me, it's more about what are they reflecting and what's the portal. And then I am so happy and even honored to say sorry or to offer remorse. I don't have anything anymore about right or wrong or feeling shame or that kind of thing very, very much. So I just like to feel it all through as an opportunity. Yeah. Did that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It did, because even as you're sharing that, there's nuanced levels here that you're talking about as well, because it's not just taking what somebody, adverse thing that someone might be saying, let's say, it's not just taking that at face value or dismissing it as it's just a projection. It's extracting from it what we actually do need, even if the biggest thing we need from that is what our reaction is to it.
Or
it doesn't have
eventually
to be true.
To say no, you know,
exactly,
or whatever.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't mean that every reflection like that is the truth about you. It's more about then feeling, right?
And the nuances is really where I'm rooted and where this work is rooted and where we are as a community. We're not black and white, and we're not extreme. We're really more in this nuanced place of feeling it out, feeling into it is something we say a lot. And so that place of feeling into something and feeling the nuances and feeling which part maybe isn't so nuanced in that moment, like you mentioned, you know, but loving that.
Yeah.
Loving that. It's like, okay. But I think staying in any kind of extreme state or black and white, it's just, you know, it rubs now. It's
anything
not.
That's polarized at all, immediately it becomes very obvious. Like, it's just not normalized. Any kind of tension, truly.
Yeah, and there's so much of that in the external world right now. And again, this is I think a sacred phase for humanity to go through, and we can talk more about that in a future podcast too. But there's a lot of sorting this and that, and this is what I believe, and what you believe isn't right, and a lot of polarized energies going on. And I think I went into some of those, especially around COVID and all of that, you know, just to feel like, what am I discerning here? What is a pathway? You kind of had to navigate some things to ensure your own well-being in some cases. So there was a need to feel it through. It's not dismissing the outside world or what humanity is going through, but it's also feeling like what really resonates with me.
Yeah.
And even when I just scroll for a moment, there's so much tension and polarity, even in the comments, what people will say to each other. And it really hurts my heart.
Yeah.
Actually, it really does. And I just move away from it. I won't respond that way in my own posts. I don't put people down in their offerings in order to make mine look better. I feel we just share who we are, and if it resonates, lovely. And we don't get caked like that very often. That's just an example that's been in my heart lately.
Yeah, and I really feel how that ties into, as we wrap up here, to the cruelty and harshness that really is in so much of what we even call spirituality. There really is an undertone of that, not all the time, but that can really come forward. There's inner punishers involved and intense soul things going on 4D. And I just really love that the four of us have this nest and this field, this frequency, where that's just not how we relate to each other or how we relate to the world. It's not that things don't bubble up sometimes in reaction, especially for me, who speak personally there. But it's more, I love how our field that you helped so much to create and birth, and that you hold as this anchor, as like we could say the leader, you know, the woman who created this ultimately.
It's a co-creation.
It is
really feel
more
that.
And more now. It really is co-held between all of us, and I really love that cohesion. And that's just not something that seems super common. I think it's going to become more common, but I think that's kind of a sweet note to end on too. Is that we love this field, and I'm so grateful for you, and what you continue to help me move through personally, but also just what you represent, what we all represent now, of just these beacons of love, wanting to go out in the world and help humanity start to soften.
I think with the when I mentioned my childhood, you know, the coping piece, it's because my soul was like, oh gosh, it's harsh and cruel here. And then I had personal experience of that, not even compared to what I think children go through today, and teenagers, especially with internet and online. But it was like my soul was like, we need to find a way to soften this and bring in compassion. So I do feel the divine was always with me, whether I was aware of it or not. And that, I feel like an extension of that. We've been told that we're sort of bubbled. I prefer a field. So we are a field onto ourselves of consciousness that we have. And even just, all it takes is 4 people as devoted as, you have tears in your eyes, you know, because you're devoted.
Because I'm devoted, so devoted to this.
So no, but that intention to create this softness and compassion, yet realness with each other, it's really, that's all it takes, you know, and I've often said I would be this without anyone. I would be this in a cave, but I'm so grateful I get to have a communal experience. So with all of you, and I don't measure anymore or qualify by how many people and how much influence and how much money is coming in. It's much more about the quality of it to me. So the 4 of us are really in a quality place of deepening. And then from there, there's this invitation to one of you watching this, or however you're involved with us, if this feels like if we feel like your soul family, the process is really the means to be in the frequency and the relationality. The process doesn't lead like a paradigm, you know, as much as we're describing it. It's our embodiment, it's a language, it's a shared field that we have together. And those who we've been working with and that I've been working with who are in sessions, who are interested in visiting us here, what we call an immersion visit, where we have you really come into the field with us and experience what it's like to be in our world in this devoted way. And I do think it's a world where there's a certain safety and calm and joy and peace, especially the phase that we're in now. And I think that I can say that I'm proud of that. It's not an external measurement at all. It's the realness and the goodness and the integrity of it.
It's just a purified love field. It's always purifying itself because we allow that. We allow love to help us move into our next places, which is just a deepening of love.
And I love how we can all be, I say we because that's really the truth, can be just so discerning about what's right for us, what feels good, and then also be open and invitational. So it's both. It's not, you know, it's not just exclusivity and we're it, you know, we want more soul family. We want to have this field expand and deepen with others. And yet we also have a sense of when that aligns, and the field itself has an intelligence about that.
I've been really feeling that lately. Goodness.
Yes. Wow, that feels like just the beginning.
Good. Yeah, I know so many more places we could go, but thank you.
Thank you,
for
Kasha.
inviting me to interview you. It was an honor.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of love.